3 grandkids, so they enjoy that. We're trying something new today. I want to let you know, in case we have any difficulties. We're doing this live in the art museum. We're projecting our slideshow on our screen. And so everybody, those few of you are here, which is fine, and then the rest of you will see it on Zoom. So it's been a real challenge for us to coordinate cameras and lighting and all that. And so we'll polish it as we go forward. JUDI KIRK has published 2 books, and so probably the first 2 slides will be about those books. We have those available here at the Filley, and so I'm going to leave the rest of her time.
And we are getting a little bit of feedback to speak up a little louder. Okay. And then anybody on the Zoom call, please turn up your computer or your phone volume so you can hear us okay. So welcome, JUDI. Thank you.
So, are
you ready? Okay, we are going to go into her PowerPoint here.
Hey, I wanted to thank the Filley Art Museum. This is a wonderful facility. We love being here. And all of the people who work here are so amazing. We love you guys. Thank you so much. I'm here because I have a book, 2 books, and so I would like to tell you a little bit about, we're doing some adjustment here in person. Okay, I started writing well, I wasn't going to write it, it was just going to take pictures, but I started it in 2012 and finished it in 2015. And then I went on over to the next one, which started then, and it just keeps going. So, Remnants is a book that has only stories about stations and pictures of those stations. And there's just something about when you walk on people's property and take pictures, they appear. And they say, what are you doing? And when they do that, then you get a story. So that's where the stories came from. People who came and said, what are you doing? Which I'm trying to do with this. It's not dancing.
Okay.
Okay. The second book is Glimpses, and it came about because after Remnants, I had so many left in my computer that I needed another book. So I have in I have as chapter on the pumps. And in that, there's a really fascinating story by a local historian at Greensburg who had an original, the very first ever pumps and what they look like. And they're not at all like what you would think, but they make sense. And you see them here. And so I have lots of pictures of pumps in his story. Okay. The next, another chapter is on signs, because when I would take pictures of stations, they would have signs, and I had a whole bunch of signs. This particular sign I'm showing because it's very special to our family. My sister lived at Coolidge, Kansas, and she owned the motel on that side of the road where you go towards Colorado. She closed that, and she closed the filling station that was with it, and my son was in college and needed to furnish his apartment. She said, well, come on over and take everything you want for your apartment. So he took the self-service sign, and since he has gotten that sign, it's always been above the stool in his mouth. Then there's a man by the name of Marshall Ryle, who is a traveling salesman, and he goes all over Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado, and he has found places to find globes. He is the most phenomenal person I know about all the history of globes, and that is the last chapter of the book. He is just like a professor of gas station globes. Steve and I spent quite a while at his house looking at his glass globes, which are great. So he was a wonderful source. Okay. So I began my journey with this station, which most of you probably recognize. It's on Highway 54 going to Wichita. Every time I go by that station, I say, I want to take a picture of that station, which I never did. And then one time I would go by and it's so I was like, oh, there's another station I really love. I have to get down and take a picture of that station. But this station, I found out afterwards, this is what it looked like when it was built. There was a story of a man who had a wife who was from the sea, and she wanted a lighthouse if she was going to move to Kansas. So he built this station like that. They lived upstairs, and then they renovated it and made it into a little round the extra on that. I missed that story because I didn't take the picture. So, okay. I'll get back to that, but this is a story that happened during COVID. About the second or third week of March, a man by the name of David Winkle from Melbourne, Australia, sent me an email. And he said he had gone to Kansas the summer before. He and his son would always come over here and go to car shows. And so they were on I-70. His son decided he needed some coffee. They stopped at Astra, and Astra has my books. David bought one, and they went on their way. When David got home, he said, you know, I want the other book too. So I sent him the other book. About a month later, he sends this picture. His son was depressed with COVID and staying at home, so they had what they call a COVID depression drive. And they would go out in the country, they just go to places they'd never been before. Drove to this little town, and here was this mobile station. He said, I have to show this to JUDI KIRK. So here I have an Australian picture.
I love it.
And that sign is the Pegasus. It's all over America, and it's in Australia against Australian mountains. Isn't that fun?
It's really cool.
That's just the funnest thing. Post story. Okay. So I started to go to find my favorite place, which was in Inglewood, and I took Erica Goodman with me. We took off. We were driving down Highway 54 and talking as usual. And she said, "Isn't that a film station?" And we were in Bloom, and I looked over and I said, "It is." So we pulled in and spent quite a few hours just photographing the station. And I think that is kind of symbolic of we don't see what we grew up with. Yeah, I grew up right in a town right by that. Next. So this is the station I wanted to photograph. This is in Inglewood, Kansas. It was my favorite. I would go down there to do appraisals, and I would always look this thing over. It has black tile, none of it's strapped. It has arches inside and out. It has the tile roof. It is so gorgeous. That's the reason I went down there to take that picture, because I didn't want to lose the picture. And then we went to Gage, Oklahoma, and Buffalo, Oklahoma, and Ashland, Fiction. By the time we got home, I was hooked on taking pictures of stations. Okay. So this is a map that shows you every town that I've gone to. I found one I missed, but it's not on the map. This is the map of everywhere that I went. And you'll notice that I followed roads. I would just get on a road and just take off and get on that one. And I kept looking for the old highways. And I would ask people, where's the old highway? They had to be my age or older, where they didn't know where the old highway was. We know where it is in Pratt, right? Yeah. But they didn't know all that. So this is kind of an interesting thing to just find grandma's house, see where they find it. And because of this, people have said, oh, you missed the one, you know, in that place. Okay. So I had several ways that I found stations. One was that I just went out and drove, like I just told you about. This particular one, I didn't have to drive very far because it's in Greensburg, Kansas, and that's where I live. But it's out in the country, so it was not destroyed. The Hefts owned it, and they redid it like this. And in 2018, we had the first big Kansas road trip. And so I decided I would have a book signing there with all the other authors from Greensburg. And there were 5 of us that were going to come in here, and we brought in Humps and we brought in Model Ts. Okay, next one. So the day before the actual event, Cheryl had 2 owns it, and I rounded the place, and this Model T was sitting out front. And a car went by and stopped, and turned around and came back. and a girl got out to take pictures of the TV in the house and the station. This little man opened the door and told me that he is Lloyd Ratz. He was 103 years old, and he learned to drive when he was 7-year-old in a T, just like that. And I said, would you like to sit in the T? He was out of that car and into the T before I could turn around. I was like, I gotta find somebody to help me, but he was in that T. He said, can I sit over the wheel? He scooted over there and he told me everything and how to operate it. So Claire Banta came out, he's the owner of the team, and he said, I'll give you a ride. Well, he just lit up. So Claire goes around to crank it in the front, and Lloyd is sitting inside, and he knew exactly how to do it. Not so to stay running. He and Claire were a great team. They went up and down the highway, smiling and happy. It was one of the most fun things, and all around the filling station. And he is from, his daughter said he doesn't have much to smile about, but he hasn't put smile on since he got here. Okay. This is a station in Turon, Kansas, and it's a corner station because you could drive to the corner. You have them here because I haven't realized what they were. There's lots of them around. This one is used for storing their equipment for the state department. They do the repairs and that. It's huge. So Steve and I are going to have an appointment. We stopped here. I'm taking pictures. I go inside because the door's open and nobody's there. I go all over this place, and Steve's in the car, and he hears a man say, should I shut her down? So he starts to go over where the man is. I see him, so I outrace him to the man and say, I'm JUDI KIRK, I'm looking for you. And I said, that's an old station. He said, no, it's not. Go down to this other station. So I go down to take a picture of the 60s station, and a maintenance man drives up, and he said, that is a station, and my father knows all about it. Okay. So this is his father, Bud Ransom. He was 85 years old. We sat on a picnic table out front for a long time. He told us stories of the stations. He told us stories of bank robberies when he was a kid. He told us stories of people falling out of a second-story windows drunk. I mean, he just told us all kinds of stories about Turon. It was a fun time. We both left there going, oh, that was amazing. The people we met were the best part. Okay. This station is in Baldwin City, Kansas. It's on a corner, and out in the middle of the intersection is a great big circle. It's like a roundabout with roundabouts in the middle. And I had been involved with a lot, and Steve's cousin lived there. We were sitting and talking to her, and I said, I need to go take pictures of stations. She said, let's go downtown, I'll show you. Yeah, right. Okay, so we go downtown, and here it says, this is the City Hall. The fountain underneath the tree is called the Shepherd's Fountain because it used to sit in the middle of the intersection. And when the shepherds brought their sheep through Main Street, they would stop and let the sheep drink out of the fountain. But when the trucks started going through town, they decided they needed to move the fountain. So they put it over in front of City Hall. And beside the City Hall, back to the left, there's an art gallery. Isn't that wonderful? We like art galleries. Okay. This little station is in Lawrence, Kansas, just as you cross the Kansas River heading north off of Mass Street. And when you walk in the door, just to your right on the surround the door is a mark. And that's the mark where the flood of 1951 went. I didn't know, I was 1 at that time, so I didn't know there was a flood in 1951. But from that point on, everywhere I went along I-70, people talked about the flood of 51. And next door to this, there's another station. There were 2 stations side by side, like 5 feet apart. And both of them, she thought they were going to be torn down because we were going to walk. But anyway, this is a really fun place to stop. Okay. So this is in Newton, Kansas. Have you seen this one? We go to Newton and you turn up Kansas and there's a Dillon store and kind of a complex of stores. This station is in the corner of that. And it is such beautiful architecture, painted beautifully. And if everything in that whole thing has these calmer looking things, and it kind of kicked on up on this, and then made this look really modern, but it's been there for a very long time. The rest of the place is painted, I think, tan, pink, and turquoise, all kinds of colors. And this station is a Verizon store. Perfect place for a Verizon store. The garage, we have the displays, and the other side we have an office. Really a wonderful little station. Okay. This station is in Dover, Kansas. Dover is southwest of Topeka. My sister lived out in the country by Dover. We had a family reunion here. Behind this station, there's a stone building, and a lot of us stayed in that house, and we loved it. It was so much fun to sit on the porch. So I knew that Dover, according to our family reunion. So at Christmas time, we were my sisters, and I said, I'm going to take pictures of the station. She said, well, take one of Dover first. I said, okay, where's the station in Dover? She takes me in front of the house where we stayed, and here's the station. But in my defense, it was a craft shop, and I was looking in the window to see what they had to sell. So I didn't notice the structure of the building. But this little station has been there for a very, very long time, and it sits back in the trees, and next to this building, it's very, very cute. And across the street, they advertise the best pie in Kansas, but a lot of people say that. So, okay. So in between Hutchinson and Newton, on the road that goes through Highway 50, this stands there now. But when in my first book, I took pictures of it in its original place, which was down the road, it's on the other side of the road. It's set right beside another station out in the country. So I took pictures of it, and I can remember that I smelled a skunk as I was taking pictures around the car. That's my memory of that station. But up the road from this, there was a man named Richard Thatcher who had always looked at this station and wanted to take it to his farm. And his farm was on the highway. So he kept his eye on it, waiting for the lady to be ready to sell. And one day they were going to a ball game, when the grandkids signs up, he ran into her house, said, I want to buy it, paid full price, and said, I'm going to take it to my farm. Well, it's so tall because of that tall roof. It's a Tudor style. It just has that really pointy roof. It's not a very big station, but he couldn't figure out how to get it with the lines across the road. He couldn't get it to his house. So he cut it up right below the roof line and carried that part. And that was even pretty tall to get into those things. He went back to get the rest of it and discovered that everything underneath the window was rotted out. So he cut off from the windows down, carried that part to his farm, and meticulously rebuilt it with the same size wood, everything exactly like it was, put the door back in, the original door. Now you will notice his farm, if you go that direction, because they're beautiful white pins, which you can see all the way around it. He has that fuel truck sitting out front. He has the pumps. He says people come there for wedding pictures and graduation pictures and all kinds of things. So that's kind of a special place in our heart. Okay. This little station is on the state line as you go out of Kansas on Highway 200. I told you my sister lived in Coolidge. Well, this isn't too far from Coolidge, and Steve and I go to Colorado at least once a year, some twice or 3 times a year, and we always take the same path. We've driven by this for many, many times, but right beside it is a great big huge sign that says, welcome to colorful Colorado. And we used to go late July, and it is never colorful, and it's never cool, and we just think that's the best sign ever. So I always look at the sign. So a few years back, and Steve and I can't remember exactly how many, but not too many years back, we were coming out of Colorado, and I was kind of doing my half sleep out the day. And I go to see the station. I said, stop. Well, Steve says that during all of this, he learned to stop very quickly. And when I said stop, I meant like right now. So he stopped. He said, do you want to go back? He said, do you want to go back? Well, yes, I want to go back. So we went back and took pictures on that view. Look at the sky. It's not a gorgeous day. It was just a beautiful, beautiful day. And I found out that there was a little cafe in there. You could eat at the stools. They had ice cream. Also, right on the state line, probably 100 feet from the state line, on the other side of the state line, just south of the highway, there was a town called Trail City. Trail City was a place where when they had cattle drives, the cattle drive was right up in this border, and they needed places to stay. Trail City was it, and Trail City was a medieval city, and they had their beer joints on the state line, and so guys would go cross the line in the front door, get drunk, and go out the door. I mean, there's just, this actually is on the internet, Trail City. It's just a fun thing to look at. So we learned a lot about that. Okay, now you know this one. Pratt. Pratt had 13 stations at one time, and I'm not sure it might have been more at one time, but this came from a man who is a mortician, yes, someone that has a station. He said that his father would go to a different gas station every month so he could patronize everybody. It took him a year and 1 month to get back to the first one.
Wow.
That's how many stations there were. And a lot of them are still standing. Pratt, Newton, McPherson are all places where there's just lots of stations still standing. This one, in this condition, just makes my heart flutter. Sometimes I take pictures of the really amazing station, and then they disappear, they fall apart, and they just. And this one was painted when I first took the pictures, and I love the little bricks and truck that come out, and I love the triple door, tri-door, and then it started looking kind of weird, and it looked like the paint was falling off, and then all of a sudden this appeared, and a couple had bought it, and I'm living there, and they stripped it down, put bright color paint. It looks amazing. It's one of my favorites. Really pretty. I like it better and better. Okay, so the ones I've showed you so far are just a little sampling of just driving through the countryside, finding stations, and sometimes just getting away because they're already there. My second method was to follow the advice of others, because one time people found out I was doing it. Once the first book came out, I thought, you did take a picture of, well, no, I didn't take a picture. So these are stations that someone told me to go on. In Wichita, I sold my books at the building back behind this building at the tan park back there. It was automobilia. This is in Old Town, Wichita. I frequent this street central all the time. Marshall Ryle, who I told you about with the clothes, after I put this book out, he said, you did get a picture of the first ever Phillips 66 station, didn't you? And I said, well, what town would that be? He said, Wichita. Well, where in Wichita? On a central by automobilia. You're kidding me. But this was, Phillips 66 came to Wichita to catch the airplane fuel market before anyone else had gotten. They became very, very large in that fuel industry. And so they went to Old Town, did a lot of things in Old Town, so that the people that worked for them would have good things in Wichita. So this station is their first experiment. And any station you see that has the P on the chimney, the circle by the front door, and that Tudor style is a Phillips 66 original station. They originally had to start doing these stations and the domestic stations because they were putting these stations in neighborhoods and people did not like how they looked. So they began making them nicer, and this is the Phillips 66 protocol. The two garages are added on, and the one down I was talking about at the mortuary, that one's been added on too, but they're usually in wonderful shape. They all have those windows that crank out. They're wonderful buildings. So now I know we're the first ever Phillips 66 station. So I was in Brookville, and Dwayne Gust was talking to me, and he said, what are you doing in Salina? And I was like, there are many in Salina that I can find. And he said, I have an address for you. So he gave me an address. I went there and took a picture of the station, talked to some people, found another station, talked to some people, found another station. Finally ended up with this one. This one was originally called the Sid Oil Company, and it's in Newton, kind of off the main part in the middle of town. A man by the name of Brad Struey bought this building so he could make the foundation for the river, Friends of the Foundation. There used to be a river running through Salina, and they dammed it up and took it out so it wouldn't run. And there's a bunch of people trying to restore the river through the town. That river running right through town. So when you walk in this building, if you look at the floor, there's a river in the tile running through. He entered this into a competition for renovated buildings and won the Outstanding Design Award. And he also won the Outstanding Landscaping Award. It's an amazing building here in Newton. I've got the address in my second book, but it's just an amazing place. A lot of money put into it, but oh my, it's beautiful. Okay. This little station is in Scott City, Kansas. Jim Wilcoxon owns it. The fun part about this station was that while I was there waiting for Jim to come talk to me, the spokesperson came in and talked for 10 minutes. First, a bunch of guys came in asking how to fix something, and a guy came in and said, "This is the tool." He loaded it to him and said, "Bring it back whenever you can." That's just kind of how the station ran. It's just fun to be there. So he sat down and talked to me, and he was telling me about his station, and then he said, "You have seen the station in Glen Elder, right? Where's Glen Elder?" So he takes me to Glen Elder up north, and he says, "You're going to want to see that station." So this is the station.
Wow.
Ernie Norris was in the Army of Occupation in Germany in the winter of 1919. And he started drawing castles. He loved the castles of Germany. I'm thinking none of the estate people, but they did. So he drew this castle, and it was in Luxembourg, Germany. And he came home with his drawings. There's in Beloit, there's a Catholic church that has flying buttresses that's gorgeous, and it was designed by Frank Slack. So Ernie Norris went to Slack and said, "Can you make this into a police station?" Okay, those front pillars inside are 6 foot square, the inside. The part where you drive through the gas, 2 cars can drive through. The roof has a kind of sand texture on it, and they crushed up glass and put it there so that at night it would sparkle. It has a place in the back that he's made into a bed and breakfast that is big enough for a bed and breakfast. So after he had this for 1 year, he decided he needed a place to fix cars. He went back to Slack, they designed one just like this to fix the cars. So here's these 2 beautiful buildings, and if you notice, there's orange stripes through the limestone. And I was all over Beloit, and all over here, you see this limestone with the stripes. He said, "That sure looks like it would be hard to do." He said, "Oh no, that stuff's out on the hillside, just go pick it up." I said, "But how do we get the stripes in the middle?" He goes, "That's the way it is. It goes off in 8-inch pieces. It just slides off in 8-inch pieces with that one stripe in the middle. It's unique to that area." That was fun. Okay. When I was in Newton, I went to a place that I thought was a station. It was not a station, but the lady's husband knows a lot about stations all over the state. So when I'm using the pen, the statement, "You did go to Route 66, right?" No, that's over in the southeast corner of the state. No, we didn't. So Steve and I found a friend in Oklahoma who would take us in, and we started in Oklahoma to go up through that 27 miles in Kansas where Route 66 goes through Kansas. This is the Arch Rainbow Bridge. That's really hard to say. It's gorgeous. It goes over a river. There's lots of trees around. The gracefulness of these arches in the middle of nowhere. And tradition in the town was that this high school kids would go put the graffiti on it after they graduate, put their names on the bridge. So they have a grant that every year they can repaint this bridge over the graffiti from high school kids. And it's beautiful, it's light, it's just really beautiful. And that on Heidelberg, it says Route 66 on Route 66, those are on the road, so that you know. Okay. So this is Miami, Oklahoma. Miami is spelled like Miami, but outside of Miami, Oklahoma. The owner of this place was Darrell Buckmaster. This is a 1929 transcontinental station which was purchased by Marathon Oil, and Marathon colors were those colors. He found a can that had not painted and had the colors matched perfectly and painted this station the way the picture showed it was painted originally. Went and found Marathon pumps. Inside of that, there were mirrors that said, "Thank you for keeping this restroom clean." Remember those? And the little map things that held the maps with the maps in it. He had all kinds of signs and things. We spent quite a while there, and people would drive up in the rental cars and take pictures in front of the station. So after this book came out, I found out that he had an auction and sold this. So I called him and talked to him. He had put all his money in it. He had a big investment here. He didn't want to stay there every day, keeping it open. He needed to go close to his son, so he had an auction. And he said, "JUDI, the building brought almost nothing." I mean, he sounded kind of tearful. It brought almost nothing. But he said, the stuff inside brought a whole bunch more than what this building brought, because his things were so unique and such good condition. And in my book, you can see a lot of things that were inside. Even those pumps outside, Marathon is it's not well known, it's an Oklahoma type company. So he's now with his son, and I don't know what happened to the building, but yeah, it's kind of an interesting ending. Okay. So the Cars movie came out about the time our grandson was a little kid. Disney started a car full of people in Chicago, and it was just drive all the way to LA and find things that they could put in this movie that people would relate to and say, "Oh, no, that's not sick." And they got to Galena, Kansas. Now, Galena is a town next to the zinc mines, and zinc mines are deadly. And Steve and I drove through where the zinc mines had been, and it was destitute. There was nothing there. People had to move. They just left their houses. It makes you get sick. And so this town was poverty, just poverty. And right beside this station, one of the truck closest to the station was sitting there, and they said, "That's our truck. That's Mater. We're going to make that into a character in the movie." So the one next to it is the one that was in the movie, the protocol for the one in the movie. So when this came about, then people began coming to Galena to see the truck, and they came and painted the place and have souvenirs and a restaurant inside. And because this one was moving, then other stations in town painted and made some wonderful things. And then they started putting good things on Main Street. There was music playing when we were on Main Street in this place. They had hanging baskets with automatic water hose. Oh my goodness, what a blessing. And all because of a truck sitting beside a station. That we spent quite a while there in Galena. It's a fun place. Okay. So we were at a repair shop in Dodge City, Kansas, and the guy had this picture hanging on the wall. I said, "Where is that?" He said, "Across from the co-op station, right across from their office." I said, "Oh, we gotta go take a picture." But I didn't have a camera, so Steve and I went to the co-op to see this station. Okay. That's what we saw. Oh. So we were like, this isn't matching up to the picture. And I'm not sure if it was when Steve was with me, but I went back with my camera and went into the office, and by now, the co-op was Pride and Resources. Went in there and said, "I was told there's an old station over there." And they said, "There is. It's inside that building." So I was taking pictures one day, and a man by the name of Chester Brown came by. He worked for Pride. He said, "What are you doing?" The old question. And I said, "Well, I heard this station." He goes, "I'll get a key. I'll take care of it." So he took me in, and where the big door is, went into the garage that had been built onto the original station. Now this sits about 10 feet from the railroad track. The railroad track is hot all the time. He said, now this station is falling down because it has termites, and being so close to the railroad track, it's shaking continually. It's just dissolving into itself. So he said, I'll take you into the main part, but we have to stand by the wall. Don't get in the middle or you'll fall through. So we go tiptoeing around the wall, and I took pictures of the inside, the doors, the door by the pickup was the original door. There were two windows on each side and then the other. So I thanked the guy for it. They left my name with him in my card. He said, well, we'll keep you updated. One day I get a phone call and he says, Judy, you need to get up here tomorrow morning. We've uncovered the station. We're tearing it down. They tore it down to make a parking lot with a cover for the employees' vehicles, which is really nice. But he said, it won't be that long. You need to get there. Okay. So I raced up there, and there it is. The uncovered station. Now, they painted those colors to match the elevator. And I walked all around it, took all kinds of pictures. What a blessing. And in my trips, I found, those of you that have worked with me know, I found 4 or 5 stations where they just built on the station. It's really interesting. Okay. This is Bunkerville, Kansas, which is just off of the I-70 right west of Wilson. I had my books for sale at Kansas Originals in Wilson, and so they were having a book signing. I went to the book signing, and 5 different people said, you have taken a picture of the station Bunkerville, and I'm like, weird, it's Bunkerville. Just open the hill. Just open the hill. So one time when I was going to Wilson, I went to Bunkerville, and Bunkerville probably has 30 people living in it, but it has rock everywhere, rocks over the stairs, rock porches, rock fence posts. I'm so confused. And this little station. Somebody went in and just painted this station, brought in the mobile house, put the Pegasus up. Inside is all kinds of paraphernalia from building stations. There's a mannequin standing with his hand in a little till, cash register. That's what my husband's working. And I spent a lot of time there in the truck. It would have been a week truck. How fun is it? Okay. So one summer, it was extremely hot. In July, Steve and I went to 4-H supper, which is always outside where you melt. And we're sitting talking to Kim Gamble, and she says, so what are you doing? Well, I'm kind of making a book with building stations. Have you seen the one in Otis? No, I don't even know how to get to Otis, except that it's Otis Bison High School, and I think we've been there before. So I get the map out and in Otis. Now, Kim she grew up in Otis. And her memories of this station, the man that owned this station would fix tires when the kids got flats. He would give them, he'd let them have air. They hung out at the station. Old men hung out at the station because there was a pot belly stove. They sat around in the winter, threw their peanut shells on the floor, and they had a good time. When these little kids grew up and got a copper and came to get the first tank of gas, he was there. I tell them how cool that was. And her memories are all mixed with this station and small town life in Otis. What a wonderful story. And he, at the time that the first book came out, so in 2015, he was still alive. He was still going out there and helping people. Okay. Okay, so Marshall Ryle also said you have seen the stations in Norton. Norton, Kansas is almost on the Nebraska border, west of Hayes, highways. And so Erica and I pile in the car, another adventure. We're going to go find Norton. And we ended up on a dirt road going through the Flint Hills. No, they're not the Flint Hills. I was corrected on that, but they look like the Flint Hills to me. Smoky something else. Smoky River Hills. So we're seeing huge windmill farms with huge windmills. And buildings that just have the stones still standing. You get to Norton, there's 4 stations there. This is just one of them. This station had a fire in the left-hand bay, burned the whole thing out. And the man who had run this station was about to quit anyway, so he just sold the building to the city. There's a man in Norton named Nick Miller who does an amazing job on filling stations. He redid all 3 of the filling stations. This one, as you can see, is used for economic development, chamber, and I can read the other. There's 3 different city businesses that are in this place. Nick did such a great job. You walk in, there's an office to your right. Behind these doors is a gorgeous, it was just pretty. You couldn't even tell you were in a station. And in the back, there's another office, and it has one of the windows that was between the 2 bays that they rescued. Great original architecture and stuff. It's beautifully painted, beautifully redone, just amazing. The other ones, there's one that tourists just go to see because I think it's a Conoco station. It has an outdoor booth, air conditioning booth, and phone call, and this whole town is very aggressive, and they have 7 life-size Remington sculptures there. They invest in art. They invest in nice things. When we were there that evening, they were going to have a busload coming from Colorado to talk about how to be aggressive in the town development. Good town. Okay. So another way, I only have 1 station that we saw on the internet. I had a friend whose son was getting married at Fort Riley, and his reception was going to be at St. George, Kansas, in Potawatomi County. Steve and I lived in Potawatomi County when we went to college, but we'd never heard of St. George, which was probably about 15 miles straight south of where we lived. But we went down Fort Riley Boulevard, came out, and went down the road a little ways, and here's St. George. Steve went on the internet because he always wants to know where he's going. And when he went on there, St. George has a really wonderful website. He said, "Judy, I think you're going to go see this." So he showed me a picture of the station, and I'm like, "Shelby, I'm going to be a little late to the reception. I've got some things I want to look at." So this station, at the time we were there, was used to rent out canoes because that Kansas River was flooded. And the city of, the actual old city of St. George is not that large, but it's been lots of people building out there trying to get on Manhattan. But you could only, because of all the trees, you could only see so much. So this had, like, right in that station, was a little frame bed sticking out. That's an 8-sided wooden structure that's dovetailed together with no base. There's 2 of them. That's the only standing set of those left in the state standing. There's one stored somewhere in western Kansas, but it's still standing. And they were sure and straight, and they had that mark in the flood. And then the town is also where the Dalton boys, when they got kicked out of Kansas City, said, "Don't return." One of them had an aunt in St. George, and they kind of took over her house. They took over a business downtown, and they kind of ruled the town for a while before they got kicked out again. There was a stream that it's not a stream. It's a spring. It's a spring that's been running since the Indians were there. And it's still running, and they have a little place where you can go, a little square thing to catch the water, and you can go fancy over there. And the house that the state adult makes, and then they have a church that was built in the 1800s out of limestone. Fun little town, and it has other people down by the river. So anyway, what time is it? Do I have time?
You do, if you want to take some questions.
Well, let me read something first.
Great.
The station at Greensburg, when Lloyd Ratz was there, when I went home that day, I was so moved by Lloyd that I wrote something which will never become published because I'm done writing books. So this is what I wrote. I just like to share. Okay. smiling and telling stories. He was only 4 when his father sent him to town with a team of horses and a wagon full of wheat, a heart full of pride, alone. He made it to the elevator, and I later learned that's because the horses know the way to the elevator and back to the field in good style, which is how he lived his life to the ripe age of 93. At 7 years old, he learned to drive a Model T, just like the one he got to sit in when he and his daughter stopped to look at the T in the wonderful station complete with pumps. Lloyd remembered that the brakes on his Model T didn't work, so you had to throw it in reverse to stop. And then you had to get out the toolbox and make repairs so it would run again. He got really good at that. As Lloyd's daughter took pictures, I went over to his family and told me he could learn to drive a car just like that Model T. He didn't take very long to get out of the car when I asked him if he would like to sit in the car. He scooted over under the wheel quickly and pure joy spread across his face, a man at peace in familiar situations. He began to tell me how all the gears and pieces worked as if he had driven the T all of his life. Then Claire Vanta was turning the crank to start the car, and Lloyd knew just what to do at just the time it would be right to continue to run smoothly. Those two made a good pair. They took off down the highway, and he never quit smiling. His heart was full of joy. At the look on his face, and the tears ran down my cheeks. His daughter said he didn't have much to smile about those days, but smile he did. And as he pulled back in, he said, "Gather around. I have a story to tell you." He told us of a guy from Jetmore who had only ridden horses and worked with them. He never had a car. His father bought a T, and the son soon snuck out for a ride one day when his father was not around. He headed to town, and the hills were really big there, but they're not really big there. He said, but they're kind of rolling, and on the way into town, he would say, "Whoa," when he was going downhill, and "Giddy up," when he was going uphill. He soon realized he didn't know how to stop. When he got to town, he started circling at the city square and yelling, "Help! Help!" But people there thought he was kidding and didn't help. Finally, they realized he was serious and helped him get stopped. We all enjoyed the stories that he told, Sarah stories, under the azure sky, on a perfect day, making a magnificent memory. Lloyd wanted to sit for a while in the car, and then he sat on the running board with me and talked. What a wonderful man who lived a life of peace. As we were sitting there, he told me his daughter had moved his tools close to the house so he could work. Actually, after the back door of the kitchen, she put a shed right there, and all his tools were there so he could walk out of the kitchen into his shed, not have to go very far to work every day. He makes metal stands for people who cannot hold their books. He does the welding, the finishing, the painting, and oh yes, did I mention, he has his own design. He gave me one of those. Wow, I was speechless. And that is not a frequent thing. As they drove off, Cheryl and I felt that we had some new friends. We were able to give Mr. Ratz one more ride in the T, and then he was able to give us a wonderful memory on Lloyd's day, on the 11th anniversary of the tornado. I counted this as yet another in a long list of wonderful things that came out of our tornado. So that was how I won that day.
That was beautiful.
So, you want questions?
Yeah, thank you for reading that. That was beautiful. It's beautiful. You're quite an author and a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you doing this. Thank you for your program. Anybody in the audience that would like to ask questions, you're welcome to, or on the computer, you are welcome to chime in questions too, but I think we just really want to thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Very interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting subject.
Yeah. We encourage you all to take a closer look at her books while you're here. Audience members or those of you online, come on in. We have both of her books. We carry them both in the gift shop, and you will see more of what you saw today. So what a treasure. Thank you, Judy. And everybody, thank you for listening. We want to just encourage you to continue to tune in. Thanks, big thanks to Grant at the Media Center in Greensburg. Oh boy, we couldn't have done this without him. And we will continue to kind of work on and refine our technology October 2nd, we'll welcome Sue Godwin, and then November 6th will be Lisa Miller's Lunch and Learn. These will probably be similar formats. So now we know how this goes, and thanks for bearing with us. And again, a huge thank you, Judy. This was just great. I'm sure that after we end this call here, you'll probably have some time to visit with everyone here. So thank you again very much. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to end this. Yeah. No.